All right, so pretty sizable patch just dropped for Helldivers 2 yesterday. We got a smaller amount of balance changes to weapons and stratagems. I tested out the Dog Breath, a little bit of the Sterilizer, and the Mines on all the factions, and I wanted to give you guys my thoughts. So first up, let's quickly talk about the Sterilizer. I did try it out on a build against the Bugs with the Dog Breath and the Torture as my primary. I'm just going to talk about the Sterilizer briefly because I only tried it a little bit, but I honestly just felt like I was just letting my Dog Breath do most of the gassing and pulling out my Torture to do the actual damage. The Sterilizer was improved with its handling and being able to gas enemies for an actual good amount of time now, 10 seconds instead of 6 seconds. It's definitely more usable than it used to be, but the real star of the patch right now is the Dog Breath, the gas backpack. Now, what I'll say is if you do really want to use the Sterilizer, I would recommend bringing like a Laser Dog or the Ballistic Guard Dog instead, because when one of your slots is for crowd control, you probably should put damage in your other slot. All right, so with that being said, later on that night, I took the Dog Breath and the Flamethrower to a solo bug mission, and it felt really, really great and fun. The Dog Breath really is the star of this patch, in my opinion, because, you know, it being able to move side to side between enemies, gas up multiple targets very easily, and that confused effect lasting for 10 seconds on just your backpack slot is pretty insane, and it allows you to just maneuver around the battlefield and just stay alive a lot easier. And that's really all it comes down to when it comes to the Bugs. You know, I tested it against the Bugs and squads and solo, and it felt easily like S tier backpack option both times because it just keeps you alive. All right, so let's talk about the Dog Breath versus the Squids. Again, I took this to a solo game with a medium machine gun and the Plasma Punisher. And normally in solo Squids games, it can get absolutely hectic with the amount of Voteless, you know, the Jetpack Overseers spamming their guns at you, the Melee Overseers trying to rush you down and beat you to death. And what I'll say is the Dog Breath is mainly a tool for the Voteless, because number one, if any sort of Voteless enemy gets gassed up, they will just die from the gas effect, so it'll confuse them for a little bit and keep them off of you until they just straight up die. And there is so many Voteless, you still will have to deal with a decent amount yourself. But with the Gas Buddy, you get to take at least like half of them completely off of your back, and that's in a solo game. In a squads game, it probably makes you feel pretty safe most of the time. Now, this is where it gets a bit weird because we do have to talk about gas against Overseers. It kind of seems like they don't really get confused, or it's at least not super consistent against them. I am going to try to put a clip in the background where I gassed up 2 Melee Overseers and they still were shooting towards me, but at the same time, I was close enough to them that it should have triggered their melee attacks. And in general, anytime I've previously used gas grenades, it doesn't seem like they really get fully confused. Now, with that being said, though, I have done tons of solo against Illuminates with many different builds. This is definitely one of the more manageable games I've done. You know, my normal strategy is I bring Supply Pack in combination with Incendiary Impact Grenades, but throughout this game, I was never really out of grenades, basically meaning that I never threw them all. You know, my Gas Buddy was dealing with tons and tons of Voteless for me. And again, with those Overseers, even though they aren't always really confused, it does actually do about half of their health. So if you're using a splash weapon like the Plasma Punisher I was using this game, or for what it's worth, if a lot of people like the Purifier or the Crossbow, the Purifier and the Crossbow normally 2-shot Overseers, but you can actually just 1-shot them and then let the gas finish them off from there. The gas does do nearly half their health. It does just under half their health. All right, so let's quickly talk about the Dog Breath on the bot front because I did use it over there. I think there are some niche things you can do with the Dog Breath on the bots. I'll eventually try a Dog Breath and Flamethrower build because, as you guys know, I used to like running the Flamethrower against the bots. And when it does gas up the bots, it is really good. But with that being said, the Dog Breath only has a 20-meter range, so I don't think most of you guys will really use it over there. If it can gas them up, it will confuse them and it will save you, but at the same time, again, 20-meter range, it's not really that far. Overall, I'm giving the Dog Breath an S tier against the Bugs and the Squids. This is something that I will use for a lot of my solo runs going forward. It just helped me, it made the battlefield on both of those fronts feel way more manageable, and me being able to maneuver between like the Mega Nest on solo or just doing objectives, it was a lot easier. All right, so now on to Mines. Are they good now? Are they ever worth using? Do you really want to bring these to any of your games? I tried them out on all fronts. Here's what my thoughts are. So first of all, the anti-tank mines are just straight up good against the bugs and the bots. I have already been using the anti-tank mines in maybe like 10% of my loadouts, 20% of my loadouts. It's not something I bring all the time in previous patches, but I actually did bring them like relatively frequently. And I was using them because they straight up one-shot chargers, hulks, tanks. They can kill Bile Titans, and I think 2 or 3 if they step on them. And they can kill the large enemies like the Factory Striders. They actually already did really good damage last patch. The main difference this patch is they lowered the cooldown to 2 minutes. And so the way you need to think about anti-tank mines is like, you know, take Orbital Precision Strike, for example. It kills 1 heavy enemy every minute and a half. I think it's a minute and a half cooldown. While the anti-tank mines are pretty much guaranteed to kill 1 to 2 heavy enemies with a way higher ceiling of being able to kill up to 10. You know, I think it throws down 15 or 20 anti-tank mines on the floor. And of course, they're not always going to get triggered. But very often, if I throw down anti-tank mines in between myself and a bug breach, and the chargers start running towards me, it very, very frequently takes out 4 or 5 of them. So that's how I would really think of it, because, you know, you are pretty much guaranteed to at least kill 1 or 2 on a 2-minute cooldown, but it does have that chance to kill a lot more and go really big for you. What's also worth noting is they do trigger on enemies like Rocket Striders, they do trigger on Alpha Commanders, which are really great targets for the anti-tank mines. And another thing worth mentioning is if a group of mobs get near an anti-tank mine, you can actually shoot it to trigger it, and then you can kind of sort of use them as a pseudo-mobbing tool as well. They actually do have some really interesting uses. How I oftentimes use them is I throw the anti-tank mines directly at my location when a bug breach gets triggered. That way my teammates are spamming the bug breach with like Eagle airstrikes or cluster bombs, and then any enemies that get out of that or any chargers running towards me will have to deal with my anti-tank mines. So I think anti-tank mines are good on the bugs and the bots. Obviously, they're pretty much useless against squids. They only target the harvesters, and the harvesters do have skinny legs when it comes down to it. But, you know, it's really only good for the harvesters. I would never use them on the squids, personally, at least. All right, so let's talk about anti-personnel mines and incendiary mines. So let's first go over the bot side. And me and Clay did a game where we used Domain Expansion. We used all of the mines against the bots. And for what it's worth, we got the mission done. We even sat in the mega base at the end and just sort of killed for a while. There was a detector tower there. But ultimately, let's just talk about what they can actually do. So first of all, on the bot side, I do not recommend incendiary mines. They don't do a super high amount of damage, that it doesn't feel very useful against the bots. So I'm going to be focusing on the anti-personnel mines. So first of all, they just one-shot Rocket Striders, which is very, very nice. They also heavily damage groups of Devastators. One anti-personnel mine does 700 damage now. Devastators have a main health pool of 750. So literally, if they get hit by one anti-personnel mine, they would be like one shot at that point to something like the Scorcher, or just wait till they walk on the second one. But the thing is, the bots aren't always advancing. I think it's worth mentioning the power of the mines and how they do deal with the mobs pretty well, and, you know, how it can kill their troops very easily. But there are going to be a better tool for something like rocket defense. On the defensive missions, where the bots are actually advancing, trying to get into your area, that's where mines are going to be way more useful, in my opinion. I'll probably be bringing them for a lot of the defensive missions from now on. And on the bugs, when it comes to, you know, anti-personnel and incendiary mines, they do deal with the mobs really well. They do kill all the mobs. But again, it's something I'll probably use for defense missions. Now, you could bring one set of mines with you if you are retreating often. Like, for example, if a big bug breach is coming towards you, you can just throw like anti-personnel or incendiary mines at your location and then run away. By the time they land, and all the bugs will kind of run into the minefield. But ultimately, the main mines that I like to use against the bugs are the anti-tank mines, because when it comes down to it, the bugs are chasing you around a lot, and oftentimes you can end up running back into your minefield if you're not careful. And then again, if I'm doing like rocket defense on bugs, mines are a tool that I probably will start bringing again. All right, so with the bots and the bugs out of the way, let's talk about the mines on the squids, because it is actually pretty interesting on this front, and I found them quite good. So first of all, anti-tank mines, don't use them against the squids. It only kills harvesters. So let's talk about incendiary mines and anti-personnel mines. I took both of these on a solo run this morning. My full loadout was Dog Breath, anti-personnel mines, incendiary mines, and the medium machine gun, and I was doing a capture the flag mission. Now, I think the main thing to point out here is pretty much just the mines on the urban maps. So it's not specifically against the Squid faction, it's more so to do with the urban maps right now. Because the way the urban maps are set up is, you know, there's the roads and there's the buildings. Enemies have to run through the roads. So oftentimes it creates these narrow pathways when the reinforcements are called in. They are pathing through these minefields almost guaranteed. Now there's also the capture the flag mission where they have those layouts where you're at the top of like the 2 stairways. And I just threw one minefield on either side of the stairs and it worked out pretty well. With that being said though, the one set of stairs is like very narrow, and if you throw a set of mines in there, the mines end up getting stuck on the walls. So I think next time I'm gonna actually throw them at the bottom of the stairs into the street so that they can spread out further. You really want the mines to be able to spread out as far as possible, because if they're in a really narrow pathway, then they will end up setting all of them off and you won't really get as much value out of them. That's really all there is to say about it against the squids. I enjoyed them on the urban maps. So when they add urban maps to the bots and the bugs eventually, which there is already a bot mission on level 3 for some reason with urban maps. I think they were testing bots on urban maps and they kind of accidentally left that one in. And I'm thinking we will get the bug urban maps here pretty soon. We'll just have to wait and see. But when they add urban maps in general to those other factions, maybe these other 2 minefields will be worth bringing. All right, so what's my final ranking on mines? Number 1, mainly good for defensive missions, but can be used on some long missions and really good in the urban maps. Anti-tank mines, in general, long missions or defensive, are great on both bots and bugs. I would give them at least an A tier, even just on long missions. Like I said, you're pretty much guaranteed to get 1 to 2 heavy kills on a 2-minute cooldown, which really isn't the worst thing ever. I mean, compare that to Precision Strike, but there is that way higher ceiling on getting more heavy kills, given that it disperses like 20 mines or something. It also kills Alpha Commanders, it also kills Rocket Striders, so like, yeah, you do have those 1 to 2 heavy kills, but you are also gonna kill a number of sort of medium enemies that count as larger enemies. I think there actually is really, really good value with anti-tank mines now that the cooldown is 2 minutes. Anti-personnel mines, they are at least B tier on the bots, but I think I need to try these on defensive missions to see how good they really end up being. They will, you know, they'll certainly be good there. And then I don't recommend the fire mines on the bots at all. Now on bugs, I just don't really like the normal mines. I really do only like the anti-tank mines. They will kill things and do work on the swarms, the anti-personnel and the fire mines. They will do really good mobbing for what it's worth. So if you are someone who likes using mines on the bugs, go for it. They do definitely do damage and get the job done. But like I said, on longer missions, when there's a lot of kiting, you know, maybe backtracking through a certain area, I think it's pretty easy to kind of run back into your minefield against the bugs on accident. But again, if there are defensive missions, if I'm doing a rocket defense on the bugs, I will try them out there. I don't think there was any defensive missions when I was online testing them out, so I can't really rate them against defense on the bugs. And then finally, on squids in the urban maps, they just straight up felt great, and I was in a solo game. A tier easily. I don't want to like preemptively call these S tier or anything because I only did get to do 1 game against them, but these are tools that I will frequently use on the urban maps now. And again, for the squids, don't use the anti-tank mines. So, all right, that's it for the video. I enjoyed this small little bit of balance changes we got because it allowed me to change up my loadout and bring some different stuff, and I enjoyed this stuff and I will use it again. And another thing I want to say is I am looking forward to the anniversary event in a few days. I will be offline for the next 2 days here, and I'll be back on the anniversary event. We have a pretty big announcement on this channel, so if you stuck around the video for this long, definitely come back here for the anniversary event. I'll see you guys there, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out.